Veiled nightmares, echoes of a solitary pursuit. In the hazy embrace of a summer that marked my recent graduation, I found myself immersed in the sweet luxury of a vacation, the days stretching ahead with the promise of carefree bliss. Post-high school, the transition to adulthood beckoned, and in the interim, I sought financial sustenance through a full-time job at the very institution where my academic journey had recently concluded. The need for funds to fuel my upcoming college adventures steered my decisions, and when my family extended an invitation to join them at my grandparents' abode in Virginia, I declined. The lure of solitude, coupled with the allure of purchased concert tickets for the day of their departure, convinced me that a house all to myself for an entire week was an opportunity too tempting to pass up. As the perpetual sun cast its golden glow on my days, the tranquility of an empty house became my sanctuary. The absence of familial obligations granted me the freedom to revel in the solitude I craved, an 18-year-old left to savor the quiet hum of an unoccupied haven. Little did I know that the tranquility would soon morph into a chilling narrative, as a series of events unfolded to shatter the peace of my summer retreat. The catalyst for this descent into darkness was an innocuous desire for fried chicken, an irresistible craving that lured me out of the confines of my dwelling. Unbeknownst to me, this culinary yearning would be the catalyst for a nightmarish sequence of events. While returning from my culinary escapade, a traffic jam on the main road urged me to lean on the digital crutch of Google Maps. In a seemingly serendipitous turn of events, a lone headlight illuminated the twilight as I passed a mechanic shop, a harbinger of the inexplicable horrors that lay ahead. The abrupt illumination of another car's single headlight, followed by its ominous pursuit, stirred an uneasy sensation within me. The dread escalated when the vehicle continued to trail me, its relentless presence turning my mundane journey into a macabre spectacle. As my neighborhood loomed on the horizon, the ominous follower persisted, and the realization that my fuel gauge flirted dangerously with depletion only fueled the flames of my mounting fear. Confronted with two unpalatable options, I wrestled with the decision to either retreat home, with a stranger in tow, or venture into the unknown, risking the prospect of running out of gas in the desolate stretch of a country road. Rationalizing that a familiar setting might offer a better chance of escape, I turned onto my street. The dread intensified as the car with a lone headlight mirrored my every move, a sinister waltz playing out in the confines of my sanctuary. The disconcerting ballet of forward and reverse in my driveway unfolded like a nightmarish loop, each repetition a cruel reminder of my vulnerability. Desperation reached its zenith as I attempted to break free from this unsettling dance, finally pulling further up the driveway to confront my pursuer. The eerie glow of a lone headlight illuminated their face as I brandished a small pocket knife, my attempt to assert control over the situation rooted in a lifetime of natural paranoia. To my surprise, the intruder, perhaps caught off guard by my assertiveness, slowly retreated, making their way down the street. However, the respite was short-lived, as they parked near a neighbor's house, and an ominous figure emerged from the shadows. As clarity began to replace panic, I sprinted inside, dialing the police in a desperate plea for intervention. Peering through the inky darkness from my front window, I strained to discern any movement, but the silence that engulfed the neighborhood hinted at an unseen malevolence. The tranquility shattered as the intruder's footsteps echoed around the exterior of my house, each sound sending shivers down my spine. A nearby window rattled under the force of their attempts to breach my fortress. Fear tightened its grip as the assailant, determined and unhinged, methodically tested every door and window. Although my fortifications held, the relentless assault drove me to seek refuge in the upstairs bedroom, where I locked myself in and dialed 911 again, craving any shred of reassurance. As the distant wail of sirens pierced the oppressive silence, the intruder's final gambit unfolded. Banging against my front door, their demands to be let in reverberated through the night. Two cop cars pulled into the driveway just in the nick of time, and, surprisingly, the intruder did not flee. Peering through the windows, I witnessed the arrest unfold, the interplay between the assailant and a skeptical cop revealing a tale of intoxication and darkness. In the aftermath, as the handcuffs clicked into place, the enigma of the intruder lingered. Heavily under the influence of drugs and alcohol, the assailant offered no explanation for the ominous pursuit or the attempted invasion of my haven. Grateful for the police intervention, I stood amidst the echoes of that fateful night, the boundaries of my solitude forever altered by the nocturnal terror that had intruded upon my sanctuary. Echoes of despair, unraveling the mystery in the graveyard silence. A decade ago, my nightly grind found me at a cemetery, a place where the stillness of the dead collided with the living's routine. The job paid well, the duties revolving around patrolling in my truck, ensuring the sanctity of the resting place, especially against the potential mischief of kids. Night after night melded into a seamless cycle, the eerie ambience becoming an unwavering companion to my solitude. Yet, one fateful evening altered the cadence of my routine. After clocking out around 6 a.m., the chill of the graveyard silence clinging to me, I received a call from my boss around 10:30 as I prepared for the reprieve of sleep. He inquired if anything peculiar had transpired during my watch. My response, a negative, only led to the revelation that a grave had been defaced, shattering the illusion of routine. A pang of responsibility urged me to return and help with the cleanup, unraveling an unsettling mystery. Upon my return to the graveyard, the gravity of the situation hit me like a wave. The vandalism surpassed the usual mischief. Grotesque words and markings stained the stone, transforming it into a canvas of horror. As my boss and I scrubbed away the desecration, the true horror unfolded when I could finally decipher the identity of the desecrated grave, a child, merely 8 years old, who had passed away just months before. A cocktail of anguish and anger surged within me. The question lingered like a specter: who would unleash such malevolence upon an innocent soul? Joined by my boss, we delved into surveillance footage, only to be reminded of the inadequacy of our lone camera. The cemetery sprawled across vast grounds, and our limited view left much to the imagination. Despite the initial flurry of activity, weeks passed without incident, prompting the departure of my watch partners. Once again, I found myself alone in the silence of the graveyard, lulled into a false sense of security that the nightmare had subsided. Just when I had started to believe that the chapter of horror had reached its conclusion, the darkness revealed its sinister secrets. One quiet night, as I patrolled the graveyard, an unsettling presence lingered near the child's grave. Straining my eyes in the pitch-black surroundings, a subtle disturbance caught my attention. Moving closer, I illuminated the area with my dim flashlight, revealing a chilling tableau. A black figure lay motionless next to the child's grave. Panic set in as I cautiously approached, preparing to face the unknown. Suddenly, the figure sprang to life, disappearing into the shadows, leaving me in a state of shock, bewilderment, and terror. Shaken to my core, I summoned the police, my heart pounding with the urgency of the situation. Returning to the site, I uncovered a scene that intensified the horror: a hole in front of the gravestone, not dug with a shovel, but with bare hands. The depth was minimal, about a foot, but the grotesque intent behind the act turned my stomach. The mystery persisted, the identity of the culprit remaining elusive. In response, the town took action, hiring 2 new permanent guards, assigning one specifically to watch over the desecrated grave. The darkness that once whispered its secrets without consequence now faced vigilant guardians. The city heightened its daytime surveillance, fortifying the sanctity of the cemetery against the malevolence that had tainted its grounds. To this day, it stands as the darkest chapter of my graveyard tenure: no ghosts, no unearthly creatures, just the chilling malevolence of humanity casting a long shadow over the realm of the dead. After Hours Enigma, Chronicles of a Community Patrol Officer. Working the night shift as a community patrol officer in southern Las Vegas was a unique experience. Unlike a police officer, my role was more about providing a reassuring presence for the residents in the affluent neighborhoods. At 25 years old, I drove around in a small patrol vehicle, enforcing community rules and reporting violations, no matter how petty they seemed. The job, while mundane, was a necessary means to pay the bills. My usual shift spanned from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m., an unconventional timeline that took me through the hushed streets of quiet neighborhoods. One particular night shattered the monotony, introducing a disturbing incident that lingered in my thoughts. This unsettling event occurred during my mid-shift patrol around 10 p.m. The task at hand was to check the community pools to ensure they were securely locked for the night. Parking near one of the pools, I performed a routine check and noticed a hooded man sitting on a park bench nearby. His hands were tucked into his pockets, and he seemed engrossed in whatever lay on the ground before him. My initial assumption was that he was merely waiting for a drug dealer. Dismissing it, I returned to my car and continued the patrol. However, when I circled back to the pool around midnight, the mysterious man had vanished into the shadows. Driving past the darkened park, an unsettling feeling crept over me. Something felt off, although I couldn't quite put my finger on it. A few minutes later, at a stop sign, I spotted the same hooded man crossing the road. As he reached the middle, he turned to face me and approached my window, inquiring about a specific address. His lack of emotion and the odd circumstances unnerved me. Rolling up my window, I informed him I didn't know the address and drove away. Glancing in the rearview mirror, I saw him standing in the middle of the road, watching my departure. Parking on a nearby street, I contemplated calling the police. The situation seemed strange, but I hesitated. Was it reason enough to involve law enforcement? The address he had asked about was nearby, within the neighborhood I patrolled. Curiosity led me to type it into my GPS, revealing it to be just a few minutes away. Upon arrival, I found an ordinary-looking house. The hooded man emerged, knocked on the door, and, when it opened, violently forced his way inside. Shocked, I immediately called the police, waiting anxiously for their arrival. Minutes ticked by with no movement inside. The debate within me intensified. Should I intervene? Fear prevailed, and I chose to stay in my car, terrified of exacerbating an already dire situation. Suddenly, the front door swung open, and the hooded man sprinted out, disappearing into the night. The police arrived nearly 10 minutes later, a delay that sparked a twinge of frustration within me. By then, the assailant was long gone, leaving the beaten and unconscious homeowner behind. In the aftermath, more peculiar details surfaced. The homeowner didn't recognize the attacker, and the violence seemed oddly personal. Strangely, nothing was stolen during the home invasion, adding another layer of mystery to an already enigmatic incident. The unsettling events lingered, leaving me to grapple with the shadows that lurked in the supposedly serene neighborhoods I was tasked with safeguarding.